Hello and welcome into our special edition of Law Call tonight. We have the pleasure of speaking with Tom Mesereau. He's a criminal defense attorney, well known throughout the country, and has received all sorts of accolades, including Barbara Walters, one of the 10 most fascinating people. So we are thrilled to have him here at Law Call, answering some of your questions and just learning from his background and all of his work that he's been involved with. And we mentioned, of course, that he represented Michael Jackson in 2005, and I wanted to talk to him about jury selection. How does that work? How is it different every case that you go into, or is there a certain rule of thumb that you use to select your jurors?
Oh, I think every case has a unique chemistry and unique set of facts, unique players, unique judge, unique defendant, unique witnesses, and you've got to do it case by case. And there's no magic formula for anything. You've got to use your instincts, your intuition, your experience with people. You don't have very long to size them up. And
how much time do you have?
Well, not much. I mean, depending on what the court allows, you can ask some questions, but not for very long. And they're tightening that up a lot. In federal court, you rarely are allowed to even ask questions of potential jurors. The judge does. In state court in Los Angeles, where I mostly practice, you have, some time, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, not a lot, because court time is valuable. And so you have to use your experience and your intuition and your feel for people, and also you're always considering people you've worked well with in the past, because I always try to question jurors if they'll let me after a trial to find out what influenced them, what they liked or didn't like.
Kind of learn from them.
I always ask them, is there anything I did that you didn't like particularly? Because I want to learn too.
That's always helpful to know, right?
That's right, that's right.
Well, good deal. Well, we've got a man named Tony from Bessemer tonight who has a question from you. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey.
Tony.
All right, Tom, good to see you on Fox 6 tonight, man. I just had a question. I made a report into, internal affairs about an incident that occurred with two Birmingham cops. And I went to court on it, and these people just avoided me. And, they didn't just give me no peace of mind about it. I just wanted to know, where should I go with it?
Okay.
Kirby?
Well, Tom has handled a number of these types of cases. You can, in certain instances, Tony, file a civil suit against police officers if they do things that are outside the scope of what they're supposed to do. So if you're not satisfied with where you got to with your internal affairs proceeding, then I would suggest that you give a civil attorney a call, and as we always recommend, make sure they've handled these kinds of cases in the past, because there's complications involved with these suits that are not in some other suits. So ask that question and get some advice from a civil attorney who may be able to help you with that situation.
All right, thank you for your phone call. We appreciate it. And again, if you have a question, get it in now. Now is the time, the number on your screen. Kirby, talk about, I think you wanted to bring up a question about somebody he knows, another well-known attorney that folks are probably familiar with.
Absolutely.
The name.
Tom, knowing you over the years, I know that you had a relationship with Johnnie Cochran, sort of a special relationship with him. Share with us a little bit about your experiences with Johnnie Cochran and what kind of person and lawyer he was.
Johnnie Cochran was the greatest trial lawyer I've ever seen, in civil court and in criminal court. He was a wonderful human being, highly respected in Los Angeles and around the country. A very humble, decent man, a man who brought humanity into the courtroom and decency. You combine a brilliant mind like he had with his sense of humanity, his humility, his decent spirit, his spirituality, and you had a really, really tough trial lawyer to be against. He was a wonderful man. I think the world of him. I'll always be indebted to him. He recommended me to Michael Jackson to be his defense attorney. Randy and Michael both told me, they called him up. He was in the hospital. No one knew he was particularly ill. And he told them they should hire me and that I could get the job done. And I'll always be indebted to him for that. He died right in the middle of the Michael Jackson trial. Michael and I went to his funeral in Los Angeles. And after the verdict, I wrote an article about him, in which I called him the best trial lawyer I'd ever seen. It appeared in the legal newspaper throughout California. I think the world of Johnnie Cochran. I always will.
That's interesting. Talk about, again, with the Michael Jackson case, does anything stand out in your mind that you learned from him while you were representing him?
Well, it was a very unusual case. You had more accredited media from around the world covered it than O.J. Simpson and Scott Peterson combined. It was that many, over 2,200 accredited journalists from all over the planet. He was the most well-known person in the world. So that put a lot of pressure on any lawyer trying a thing like that. The O.J. Simpson case had higher ratings in America because it was televised for 9 months. The Michael Jackson trial was about 5.5 months. But tremendous pressure. You had to almost zone out all the media and just focus on that courtroom because, as I said before, 13 people are the most important, the judge and the 12 jurors, nobody else. They may try and make you think they're the most important, but they're not. It was a crazy, situation every day. You never knew what crazy event was going to happen. And the prosecutors were so out to get him that they were bringing in evidence and trying to do things that I don't think they would have done in any other trial. Unfortunately, we turned it against them. They tried to bring in allegations that he had molested other young men. I started the defense case with 3 of them saying he never touches. One of them was Macaulay Culkin. I called as a witness. My last witness was Chris Tucker, a great supporter of Michael Jackson, who warned him about this family of accusers. And it was just a crazy scene every day. I lived up in Santa Maria, California, which is north of where I live in Los Angeles in Santa Barbara County. I lived there for 6 months, had to basically shut my practice down and focus on that one case. So I can talk about that forever. I mean, it was wild scene after wild scene. It really was.
Tom, something that you brought to my attention that I'd never considered, because we saw O.J., we saw Peterson, we've seen these huge trials nationally, but you brought to my attention that your case with Michael Jackson was a world event.
It really was.
Fascinating.
I mean, verdict day, every capital around the world, people were there to see what's going to happen to Michael Jackson. If you look at Times Square, I mean, everything stops. People are looking at the big screens to find out what was going to happen to Michael Jackson. It was a absolutely monumental, unusual event. And it was tough to deal with because I basically had to live like a hermit. I didn't want to be seen in a restaurant or bar ever at night. I knew the media were out to get him and they would try and film me in a compromising position or try and make something up about me. So I was in bed at 7:30 or 8 o'clock every night. I was up at 3 every day. I lived in a duplex. I had my staff and co-counsel in their duplexes. The staff was up all night. They had a key to my condo. They would open the door every hour with updated witness books and leave them on my stairwell. And that's the way I lived, like a hermit. That's the only way I could win the case, and it went okay.
Did you have any idea going into it that it was going to become the case that it did become?
Well, close friends of mine.
So much attention. I mean, obviously he's a huge star, so you knew that was going to be big.
Well, close friends of mine warned me not to take the case. They said nobody can win it, and the rest of your life, everywhere you go in the world, people are going to say he lost that case. He sent Michael Jackson to prison. And I thought about it, and I said, this is what I do for a living. This is who I am. I'm not running away from any case. And fortunately, it turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made was defending Michael. But no one thought he could win. I mean, they just, California, you have a very difficult law for the defense that lets the prosecution bring in other cases, even if they're uncharged, to prove what they call propensity evidence. And they tried to say he had molested 5 other young men as well as the one who was accusing him in this case. It all backfired on them. He was acquitted 14 times, 10 felonies, and 4 lesser included misdemeanors. It was a clean sweep for him. But unfortunately, I'm not sure he ever recovered from it. It was so physically and emotionally damaging to him. I told him to leave Neverland, never to go back after that. I said they're going to be gunning for you the rest of your life. They've been humiliated by this defeat, and you can't live in peace here. I didn't know he was going to the Middle East until he started calling me on the phone from the Middle East.
Well, let's pause right there, and when we come back, I'm going to ask you about that, about afterwards and your relationship. So we'll be right back.